It was a hot, humid afternoon in the summer of 2018, the kind of heat that doesn't just sit on you but seeps into your bones, making every breath feel heavy. I was on a train, the Jan Shatabdi Express, traveling from Hyderabad to Chennai. The air in the compartment was thick with the scent of 1,000 journeys, dust, stale food, and the faint metallic tang of the tracks. The train was already 2 hours behind schedule, and the collective frustration of the passengers hung in the air like a storm cloud. People were restless, their faces etched with the same impatience I felt. Every bump and jolt was met with a sigh, every delay with a muttered complaint. I had managed to secure a small corner seat near the window, a sliver of personal space in the sea of humanity. I pressed my forehead against the glass, seeking a moment of cool reprieve, but the pain was warm from the sun. Outside, the landscape was a blur of dry fields and scattered villages, all a monotonous shade of brown and green. The journey felt endless, a test of endurance I was failing with every passing minute. And then I saw him. A small boy, no older than 10 or 11, barefoot, navigating the crowded aisle with a grace that seemed impossible. On his left arm, he balanced a large aluminum tray with a collection of empty glasses and a steaming kettle. His clothes were worn and torn at the edges, and the sheer weight of his burden seemed too much for his small frame. Yet, what struck me most was not his physical appearance, but the faint, almost ethereal smile on his face. It wasn't a smile of a boy happy to be at work. It was a smile of a boy at peace with his reality. He stopped beside me, his eyes polite and expectant. "Tea, sir?" His voice was soft, barely audible above the clatter of the train. I nodded, more out of a desire to break the silence than a need for tea. As he poured the hot, sweet liquid into a glass, his movements were precise and practiced. He had clearly done this 1,000 times. The aroma of the tea filled the small space around me, a temporary comfort in the suffocating heat. As he handed me the glass, I found myself asking, the words coming out before I could think, "Don't you go to school?" He looked up at me, his smile widening just a little. The innocence in his eyes was disarming. "School? My school is here, sir. Every passenger teaches me something." His answer was like a splash of cold water. It was so unexpected, so profound, that it instantly silenced the clamor of my own thoughts. I was stunned. Here I was, a man with a college degree, a stable job, and the privilege of travel, complaining about a late train. And here was this boy, with nothing but a tray and a kettle, finding an entire world of education in a cramped railway compartment. Curiosity replaced my impatience. I gestured for him to sit on the little ledge next to my seat. He hesitated for a moment, then carefully set his tray on the floor before sitting down. "Tell me," I said, my voice now genuinely interested, "what have you learned from this school of yours?" His eyes lit up. "Oh, so many things, sir. I learned numbers by counting the change. I learned to read from the newspapers people leave behind. Once, a gentleman taught me the names of all the states. Another lady taught me how to say thank you in 5 different languages." He spoke with a quiet pride, his small chest puffing out slightly. He told me his name was Ravi. His father had passed away years ago, and his mother worked as a cleaner at a nearby bus stand. They lived in a small shack just beyond the railway station. Every day was a battle for survival, a constant dance with hunger and uncertainty. Yet he spoke of it without a shred of self-pity. He saw his struggle not as a burden, but as a classroom. His life was the lesson, and he was a diligent student. An elderly gentleman sitting opposite me had been listening to our conversation, his face a mix of deep thought and quiet admiration. He leaned forward and addressed Ravi. "Beta," he said, using a term of endearment, "you are already wiser than many educated people." The words resonated with a deep truth that Elias and I both felt. Ravi's cheeks flushed and he looked down at his feet, now wiggling a little with shyness. "No, sir," he mumbled, "just trying to get by." Just then, the train's horn blared, signaling its arrival at the next station. Ravi's body tensed. He quickly gathered his cups, his movements returning to their swift, practiced rhythm. He stood up, picked up his tray, and looked at me one last time. "Sir, thank you for the tea, and for the talk." He paused, a flicker of something new, a spark of ambition in his eyes. "One day I will open a big tea shop with my own name on the board. You can come and have a cup for free." And with that promise he disappeared into the chaos of the departing passengers, swallowed by the surging crowd on the platform. I never saw him again. I sat there for a long time, staring out the window at the new scenery rushing past. The sun was now setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The world outside seemed less hostile now, less of a blur. I thought about my own life, my own frustrations. The long hours, the demanding deadlines, the feeling of being stuck. In that moment, all my complaints seemed utterly trivial, a luxury I couldn't afford to indulge in anymore. Ravi had nothing, yet he had everything. He had a profound sense of purpose, an unshakable resilience, and a gratitude for every lesson life offered. He didn't wait for things to be perfect to start living. He found his classroom in the middle of a hot, crowded train and turned his struggle into a source of strength. That train ride taught me a lesson I carry with me to this day. It's a lesson about perspective, about finding light in the darkest of corners. Whenever I feel unmotivated or bogged down by the small failures of life, I remember Ravi, the barefoot boy with the radiant smile, dreaming of his future, one cup of tea at a time. I remember that the greatest teacher is life itself, and that gratitude and determination can be the most powerful forces for change.